Wow, it's fucking raining. Can you hear the rain? You probably can't even hear me above the rain. The heavens just opened as I thought to myself, oh my God, I need to open my mouth to you guys for a mental health download. But can you hear me? This is called pathetic fallacy in literature, where the weather is reflective of the emotions being written about, or the mood, or the emotions of the text, or the story, or a character, where how you're feeling is poetically reflected by the weather. I've just left my mum with 2 carers attending to her. This is a mental health download. This is the kind of thing I would open my mouth about in a 12-step program AA meeting. It isn't, therefore, you don't go to every AA meeting and open your mouth about alcohol, i.e. not drinking, or just telling stories of how you drank and how you destroyed your life and all that. You open your mouth to talk about what's hampering you, what's hijacking you, what's haunting you. And usually you find yourself there because your alcoholic or addictive mind struggles to process what you're going through. I'm just going to have to test and see if you can hear this. Okay, you can hear the rain, but you can also hear me, so let's try it. I left my mum looking, she was in a safe pair of hands. I spent a couple of hours with her. I just put away all of her shopping. She now is not, confident to get to the door to let in the guy to deliver the online shopping. So I put all her shopping away, made her some sandwiches, and then timed it so that her carers would be coming in at the time that I would need to leave. Wow, Jesus Christ. We had a heavy conversation. My mum was asking me how I'd feel when she died. And I felt she was kind of asking more than that, if you know what I mean. But she wasn't asking from a wanting to know if I'd be, like I said to her, I said, Mum, this is a ridiculous question. I don't even think in those terms. I don't even entertain the prospect of that. And yet, you can't bullshit a bullshitter. We both sort of sat opposite each other, kind of aware and sort of feeling the electricity of what she was referring to, which is, she was sort of saying, how have I arrived at this point? How have we got here? I think one of the things I least expected in an elderly parent, who's not that elderly, but okay, a parent who becomes frail, a frail parent, is that you would, we often think of things like, let's think about them, cancer or a heart attack, where one is tragically usually a slow descent, which is managed and you can see what's happening as it kind of happens. Cancer, heart attack takes you by surprise. A stroke can often be sudden, but also can hang over into life. But I think both me and my mum are a little bit stumped by the way in which it's almost like, not that she's got Alzheimer's of the mind, but she's got we kind of hit upon this idea that she might have Alzheimer's of the body, which speaks to some of the things we've been talking about in terms of what's actually wrong with my mum, in terms of her brain shrinkage and stuff like that. And again, this is not a diagnostics on my mum, but in talking about her and talking about her wanting to know how I would feel one day in the instance that she passed, you can't help but, when you struggle with your mental health, it's hard to not let the floodgates open and all those other existential, emotional feelings, thoughts seep in. This morning as well, me and Nadia had a kind of, not an argument, but we had a misunderstanding. And that misunderstanding was totally my fault. And it was totally me projecting my narrative onto what I thought Nadia was saying, and she was sort of checking in and sort of saying, "Are you okay? Something's happening today, you know, elsewhere that's incredibly important, incredibly significant, also quite poignant." And I wanted to, and I just said, "Look, you know, this is, yeah, I'm a little bit stymied by this." And she understandably said, Nadia, and we were talking about the possibility of her doing one of these sorts of chats about being the partner of someone who struggles with their mental health. And she said, you know, in no uncertain tone, she said, "Mark, you know, I'm really worried about the dips that you're having. Not that you're not doing, well, I mean, I'm not necessarily insofar as how am I attending to my mindfulness, my mental state, my managing my time and taking time to stop or relax or you know, all the things that, you know, we've all heard her talk about me needing to do, and us all needing to do, and her needing to do. She's as bad as me at making that time for herself. She says rushing for yoga. Anyway, so she expressed her concern that she was worried that, given the numerous, some of which you know about, some of which you don't know about, numerous kind of triggers that have been going on in our lives, and in a sense the relentlessness of the fear and the worry, quite literally, over my mum's health, her mortality, her ability to literally function, and then other worries and fears around other things in my life. She said, you know, I'm really worried that these kind of dips are becoming more frequent, and, you know, one of these dips could take you deeper down into a much deeper, darker place. And I found myself sort of thinking, I responded to that badly, because I was like, well, what do you want me to say? Do you want me to say it won't happen? And that wasn't what she was asking for. But in saying that, I said it with a bit of edge. I said it in a way that was kind of chippy. I think I said it in a way that was perhaps, what's the word, when you're feeling sorry for yourself. I think I had a moment where I was just like, look, there's enough going on to put enough pressure on anyone. So yeah, no shit, Sherlock, what with bipolar and depression and all of the kind of issues around addiction, of course I'm going to be feeling it more. But that was really inconsiderate, because of course she's got nowhere to take her fears and her emotions, and they're attached to someone else. And so we sort of had an aggravated 20 minutes where she was upset by me. I was upset with the whole situation. I felt misunderstood, and then I kind of thought about what she'd said, and then I apologized, and then we both apologized, and we made up. And interestingly, I reached out to one of my daughters to say, you know, have a lovely day, something's going on today. And she was asking if I was okay, and I said, look, you know, me and your mum had a silly row, but I think it's the pressures of everything going on. And she made a really interesting observation. She said, but Dad, that's probably a really good thing. It's really good that you've managed to kind of get it out. And I do think there's something to be said for, even misunderstandings can, you know, and arguments and disagreements and fallings out can result in a reset, almost a sort of an opportunity to kind of press the reset, or, like, you know, turn your phone off and reboot it so that you can kind of, or the apps are a bit fresher and all that kind of stuff. I certainly don't feel that at all at the moment, but I just wanted to say that, again, the lot, or what one's going through as someone who struggles with his mental health, or with his, you know, it's never about struggling with not being able to drink. It's about struggling with having nothing to soften the edges of sharp, angular, dark, twisted feelings. And whether that be meds like all the various citalopram that I used to take, and then the bipolar antipsychotics that I took, and then the ADHD pills and other antidepressants that I took in the past. Now I take huge remedies for, I guess, whatever homeopathy would use for something like bipolar or manic depression. Yes, there's the kind of, there's pharmaceuticals. Then there's the kind of, there's food. And then and I've really tried to restrain and restrict myself from not overindulging in food. But then what I do is I go the opposite way, and then I starve myself, or not starve myself literally, but I kind of, what's it called when you've not famine, but when you sort of fast, So, and then I get hungry, and then that hits my mental health, and then I get crabby, and then of course I can't drink. And it's not about wanting to be able to drink, but sometimes, especially at a time like now, I want to be able to take the edge off. And this is really what I'm driving at. I know that Nadia wants me to do yoga. I know that I should meditate. I know that I should take a walk and leave my phone and not think about work, or not think about the world, or not be editing, or not be... I know that I should be not, going to the cinema and always thinking, oh, well, we're going to review that, and we're going to talk about that, and we're going to do that. I know that. But when I do those things, I can't leave my head. I find myself center stage in my head and my heart, so that I feel even more stressed. So at what point is distraction good? And at what point is distraction damaging and corrosive? And again, sort of circling back to the conversation I had with my mum, a lot of her situation has been brought about by her misuse and abuse of prescription medication. And we had a really difficult heart-to-heart about that, where I didn't shy away from saying, you've done a lot of damage to yourself, Mum. I've spoken to the doctors. You've done a lot of damage to yourself, and some of that damage is now residually in your body, or in your inability to use your body. And I have to remind myself that when I looked at my mum, and as I left, I could see her not wide-eyed in panic, but she was like, oh, okay, I'm being handed, the carers were coming in. They were two of them, carers, and fucking hell, I doff my cap to carers, but they come in with an efficiency that kind of, interrupts the domesticity, doesn't it? One likes to lie around, and someone comes and says, right, get up, we're going to get off the bed, we're going to do this. It's all great stuff. And I could see my mum being jangled out of a sort of comfort zone with me and into a sort of more needed, actually, because probably if she just sat with me, we'd just lie around talking all the time. She needs to do physio, she needs to get up, she needs to do proper exercises, etc., etc. But I was reminded again that what she's feeling now and the thoughts and considerations she's having now are the consequences of her not attending to herself in a more considerate, careful, mindful way. And what she needed to do to attend to herself to be healthier, both emotionally and physically, aren't the same things that I need to. And so I think, in a weird way, I'm coming round to what's the point of this sermon? What's the message? The argument with Nadia, the conversation with my mum about her end of life and how I would feel about that, and why has she found herself at this point of immobility, and me feeling like, I feel like this morning when Nadia asked me about how I was feeling and how she was worried and what could be done, and I felt she was kind of saying, maybe you need to consider going back onto your medication. And then I was like, that's right. That's why I kind of got antsy, because I was like, but this isn't about just medication. I'm also responding to natural, real life stimulus. And I think that's one of the problems for any of us with mental health issues, is what is a naturally depressive response to something that's actually really difficult and depressing, and what is something much darker and deeper. And maybe there is no distinction between the two, and maybe Nadia once again is homing in on the truth of mental health, which is, when something bad keeps happening, I see it attach itself to your mental health, and the dips get deeper, the dives get darker, The fear that you'd harm yourself gets higher. So all of this today, all these things, all these shards, I'm bringing to this little kind of 12-step chat to say that it's all a fucking message, or the world or life screaming at me. It might not be that you need to take pills. It certainly isn't that you need to pick up a drink. But you need to find a way to lay off yourself a bit. The problem is, I've said it many times before and it's a bit trite and I get bored of trotting out the same sayings, but one of the things they say about gaining your sobriety is the great thing is you get your feelings back. But also the terrible thing is you get your feelings back. And I think what I'm going through at the moment is a little bit of not wanting to do the self-care that I need to do because I don't want to feel the big feelings. And part of that, and I don't say this, I wouldn't say this to make Nadia feel bad at all, is I don't want to feel the level of those feelings and the intensity of those feelings. And these feelings aren't just about my mum, they're about many other things too. Because I don't want that to land at Nadia's feet. It goes back to what we were talking about a week or so ago, carer, caree. I don't want to be, not the weak one, but I don't want to be the patient